Hi everyone, it's Lauren Kinghorn again, Inspiring Mompreneurs, and today I'm interviewing the beautiful Melina Lewis again. Melina, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Lauren, so much for having me on Inspiring Mompreneurs. I am always super excited to chat to you. And so, yeah, thank you very much for having me. And yeah, what can I say? I am a mom, but then I'm also a whole lot of other things. So I am a marketer kind of by day. And then by night, I do a lot of writing. Well, actually, it's turned into one of those where I'm doing it at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm doing a lot of writing. So it shifts and it changed, but I squeeze writing in and around the rest of life. And I do a bit of yoga as well. I sometimes teach that. And yeah, so building a book business, I suppose, is kind of where I'm aiming. Oh, and I do a podcast as well, which you've been on and which was fantastic.
Thank you
So
for
to
that.
have you on. So yeah, that kind of sums it up, I guess.
Yeah, and today we're talking about your latest book, the last in your trilogy. What is it called again? I wrote it down and I've already lost it, but it's Libertalia, the end of an
End
era,
of an
right?
era.
Libertalia.
That's the
So I've got Libertalia Lost Fortunes that I bought from
mhm.
you. And then the second book, I have read it as well, but that one I bought on Kindle. So I don't have
Right.
the physical copy.
Okay.
And
So
of
that
course, I
one,
bought it up
yeah.
after you died. The first book I read
Yeah.
was After You
Oh,
Died, which is the
brilliant.
adults book. Absolutely
Yes.
adore that. Yeah, your
Thank
books are
you.
amazing. Your books are amazing. And wasn't there going to be a sequel to After You Died as well?
So there is, it's
Maybe?
actually, yes. It's actually done.
Ah, ooh,
Which is very exciting. But there's been an interest from a publisher. And
yes.
so I'm
Wow.
kind of sitting on it at the moment, waiting for their feedback. So it could go either way. Whatever it is, the book will come out and I will either self-publish it again because I like it and the beta readers gave good feedback. So I think that's definitely coming up, or it'll be published, which, yeah, who knows how long that will
Wow.
take. So we're going to wait and see. I will hopefully know end of October.
That
So
is
who
so
knows? We'll either be doing
exciting.
another one of these where we are kind of launching a book, me, myself, and I, or we are talking about the publishing process, maybe. So yeah,
Wow.
it is very exciting, and
Melina,
it's
that's
very cool.
amazing. That is so
Thank you.
amazing.
Yeah.
So once you have a publisher on board, they normally pay you upfront for your next books, don't they? Or do they still do that
No,
for you?
actually, no. I think
Okay.
that's I think if you marry in keys, then they do. But
So
if you're
only
not marrying keys,
people.
then yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
no, the mere mortals of this world. I've actually spoken to a few other published South African authors who are traditionally published, and they often say that they have to kind of almost resubmit their work. So sure, they aren't going through the kind of unsolicited process where there's 50,000 people clamoring, for that one book deal. They obviously do have, an in and possibly an agent and all of that, but
Wow.
they do
Mm.
have to pitch their work each and every time. So they don't
Wow.
just get
That
automatically
is
given
interesting.
anything. Yeah.
And
So
is it a South African publisher or an overseas publisher?
it is. Yeah, because the book
South
is set in
African.
South Africa once again, so it made the
Mm.
most sense.
Mm-hmm.
And also to apply to international publishers, one needs an agent, which is
Mm.
a whole other process where you also almost have to pitch yourself to an agent
Okay.
before they will then take your book on and pitch it to publishers. So the international market is obviously even harder.
And you
So
don't
I've
need an
stuck to
agent here?
local.
Sorry.
Um, you can have an agent here, definitely, absolutely, and I mean, how lovely to have an agent. But I just don't know any, and the publisher, I you can see I'm very in self-publishing world here. The agent, yeah, I'm not too sure who they are. But in terms of the publishers, they have every now and then they open the doors. It's kind of like floodgates, I think, where they kind of like squeak them open a little bit and go, okay, unsolicited manuscripts come. And then they give you a week and you've got to get your manuscript in, the first 3 chapters. And if you don't make it, that's it. So, yeah. Wow. So it's really a bun fight. But we'll wait and see. It would be lovely to work with a publisher. It really would be. I would love to have that experience, just to know for myself, So yeah, we'll wait and see. But if not, so I'll do it my own way. So that's okay.
Yeah, it's good that you have options. I mean, that's getting really exciting. And I mean, now that you have 4 books under the belt, 4 published books, right? That is, that's going to become more and more of a reality for you. You're actually a serial author already. It's fantastic. You have a trilogy. That is amazing.
Yeah, I must say. Yeah, the kids' books have been such a treat. They've been so, so nice to do. I must say I had the most wonderful compliment from a 13-year-old. She said, oh, it's amazing. You so get 13-year-olds. And I went, maybe. I was WhatsApping her and she said, you really get it. And I was like, wow. I said, maybe I'm a 13-year-old trapped in like a plus 14-year-old body. And she was like, yeah, that's quite hectic. She was like,
she didn't like that answer.
Very worried about this.
That is so funny. But how old is your daughter now? Isn't she close to 30?
No, my son is 12 and my daughter is 10.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but I do feel there's a huge part of me that is still very in teenage world, and so maybe I just need to write that out of my system, I think, and
then you'll grow up, right?
I'll grow up, then I'll be big, and I'll be able to make like adult decisions and stuff. So
I think you've made a lot of adult decisions, Melina. My goodness, becoming an author, self-publishing, your yoga, your marketing business, you're making adult decisions all the time. You drive the kids to and from school and to all the extramurals.
I tell you, yeah.
You're constantly adulting.
Yeah,
maybe it's just one needs to escape into that younger world sometimes because we're so busy adulting all the time.
Totally. That's exactly it. There's that meme that every now and then comes up and it'll be like, I don't know, like a cat like lying on the floor face down in the mud or something, and it says like, I don't want to adult today. And I promise you I feel like that a lot. Very often on a Saturday morning, I'm just like, I don't have to adult. I don't have to make anyone school lunch. I don't have to drive anyone anywhere. I'm just going to stay in bed and not adult. Yeah. So it is. Yeah. Every now and then you've got to give in to exhaustion.
I'm with you on that. I've had a few days like that recently where I just, on Sundays, that's my day. I say to my husband, after we have our big Sunday roast, we still do the traditional Sunday roast. My mom comes over and then I'm just so tired afterwards. I've eaten a lot and I've had a glass of wine with my mom. And then I just want to go and nap. And if I miss that nap, this Sunday, I missed my nap because we went for a walk to the beach as well. Beautiful summer's day, beautiful day to go to the beach. But I was so grouchy afterwards because I realized my nap time was gone.
I love that is really classic.
It's shocking. Because what the funny part is, okay, so while you living in your 13-year-old mind, the funny part is we used to hate it when my parents had a Sunday afternoon nap. When we were kids, we couldn't understand why they needed a Sunday afternoon nap. We couldn't stand it either. And now here I am doing it.
Napping away.
I really don't take a lot of downtime during the week. I mean, it's full on. I usually get up at 4 a.m. I work till, well, it's mainly because I fall asleep with my son at 8. Yeah. So my sleeping is done by 4.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh no, getting up at 4 almost makes me queasy, just even the thought of it.
But you're getting up at 5.
I'm getting up at 5. An hour later, it's close to when the sun rises. 4 o'clock is dark. No way.
I have
No.
very strange sleep cycles. I've always been a morning person, and like that's when I get the most stuff done because nobody's there to ask me to do other stuff. I can
I
actually
know.
really get stuff done in the mornings, my own thing. I can
Yeah.
meditate, I can, just kind of start my day the way I want to, do some motivational stuff. I know, it gets me off on the right foot, I'd say.
Oh, I think that's
Yeah.
brilliant. It's a great idea. Yeah.
Anyway, I sent you some questions before this, which thank you so much for answering them. So I thought we'd go through a few of them because I loved some of your answers, and I'd love them to also be in our video interview and in our podcast. And my favorite one was actually, as a child, what did you want to do when you grew up, or who did you want to be when you grew up? I loved your answers.
So I'll hopefully hopefully it won't change since I wrote them.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah.
You wrote them yesterday.
No, it was long ago.
A lot happens.
A lot happened. So I think the first that I can remember, like as a career, was definitely grew up on LA Law, and LA Law seemed so like glamorous, and they were solving problems, and they were in the courtroom, and it just seemed great. And I just thought, yeah, that's me, definitely high-powered lawyer. I mean, I couldn't be furthest from that. I mean, now that I know. And then that kind of switched. I was like, no, I don't know about that. They seem to read a lot of documents. That looks very boring. And then moved on to, I think, what was it? I think being a vet was a huge one. That's kind of what I left school wanting to do.
Interesting.
I even went to varsity with the thought that I would be a vet. I did a BSc, and so obviously that didn't work out because I hadn't done science in high school. So that was tricky getting through science at varsity, but last time I'd done it was in standard 7. So it was interesting, but I passed by Fuluk or by Crook. Won't tell you anymore. But I did manage to pass to second year, and then by then realized that I wasn't really veterinary material either. So it's changed a lot. And I think at some point, I probably wanted to be like MacGyver, be an investigator. And I see it in my daughter. I think at this age, at like 10, they're very curious and interesting, and solving a mystery. In fact, we're going to have a murder mystery birthday for her. So love that thing of being able to solve and try and figure out the whodunit. And I often will read a whodunit book and I'm guessing who it is, way into it. So it's changed a lot. And I probably still couldn't tell you exactly what I want to be. I'm not too sure about that. Yeah. It's evolving.
Even though you're already an author and a marketer. That's so interesting. And a yoga teacher.
It's all in the mix. It's kind of like, I like to think of it as a basket, a huge big basket that you kind of like put things in that you collect. And I always think of Dharma. I don't know if you remember the series Dharma and Greg. And she was so hilarious. She was like hippie, but she'd done all these amazing things. She'd been a croupier and sailed around the world on yachts and all these amazing things. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Trying lots of different things in life is just great, because why not? Really, like, why would you have to stick to one thing? And I really believe that, it's great to study and start somewhere, but then kind of like go, just see where the road takes you. So
that is so cool. I love that idea. And I think as women, we do get that. It's almost like a privilege. I know that men, it's still a lot. I don't know if this is my old-fashioned beliefs, but like, it seems like men are generally quite solid, and they will choose a career and they will build that career. And women like to flit about trying this and that. And it's always been like that. I mean, my mom also did many, many different things. If I look back at my childhood, my mom was a serial entrepreneur and she did loads of different things, but my dad stayed in the same career. He was a minister, and that was it. So it's like, and I have the same in my relationship. I don't know if it's like, maybe I'm just talking about myself. It's very old-fashioned, but like my husband also has his career. He's been in the same career his whole life, and I've done a million different things. And I
Yeah.
love trying new things. Yeah. And you, what was it like, your upbringing and your marriage?
No, my parents are entrepreneurs, so I think that's part of the problem. And
Okay.
I think we always thought that I would be the one between my brother and I that would go out into the world and, like, you know, because I wanted that. I wanted that corporate career and to kind of climb the corporate ladder. But I'm not that person. It just looks very nice and it's very sparkly and shiny. But, you know, I can't suck it up. And if you can't suck it up in corporate, you're dead in the water. So like that was never, ever going to be me. Yet my brother, who struggled academically, is amazing in corporate. He, like, water off a duck's back, and he can just, and he's charming and he's great and he works hard. He's not a you know, let me take nothing away from him. He's not a you know, a smooth talker. He actually really does the work. And so it's interesting that we've come out of this very entrepreneurial family because you know, my parents were European immigrants. So, you know, you have to be entrepreneurial, and so they were, and they were very successful. And so, yeah, I suppose it's in the genes actually, and can't really help ourselves. And my husband is also an entrepreneur, strangely enough, even though he is, you know, he did a good solid degree like electrical engineering, and then you can always have a job, you know, working in an engineering firm. But he hasn't. He's been in IT, and he's onto his second business now, and yeah, and he's also trying different things. His businesses are bigger and more solid and all of that kind of thing, but he's still an entrepreneur at the end of the day. Yeah.
And
or
does he
a
also
small
work from
business
home?
owner.
Do you both work from home, or does he have an office?
No, he had an office, and now in COVID he does a few days here and a few days at the office, and it's actually quite nice. I like it when he comes home for lunch and stuff, and we can do a kind of midday catch up.
That's
but
cool.
then we kind of fight for space around the house, you know, and like, I'm having a meeting, I'm in the bedroom, and you know, who gets what, and then, oh, you know, well, my Skype's more important, you have to fetch the children. So
hilarious. Okay, typical arguments in marriage.
Marriage, it's full of it. So yeah, it's but yeah, so I kind of do end up coming out of an entrepreneurial spirit, and I suppose because I like to work at my own pace. I find other people slow, and things take too long, and people are so iffy and wishy-washy, and they don't want to make decisions, and too frustrating. So then I just do everything myself and make it happen. But at the same time, you know, there's a place for everything, and yeah, it's just kind of, you got to do what's right for you, I think.
Absolutely. And so talk to me about your latest book, The End of an Era. Was it sad when the era ended for you? So when you finished your trilogy, did you feel like a sadness to say goodbye to those characters? Because I mean, I feel sad every time I finish one of your books. I think like, oh, I was in their lives, you know, with them, and now they're gone.
I know. So that's interesting that you say that. So I didn't feel that. I felt, so there it is. That's there's the book, Libertalia, The End of an Era.
Yeah.
There we go. And so I didn't, because the girls matriculate. And so I do call the characters in the book my kids, even though they are made up in my head. But maybe, you know, that little bit of insanity is what helps with the creative process. But I felt like they were ready. They're ready for the next phase in their life. So it's quite exciting. The girls are going to varsity. The guys are already there. You know, Mzi is already at UCT. I don't want to give too much away about William because it will affect the story, but know that he will be around. And I'm kind of like, I'm ready for them to, like, they're all going to end up in Cape Town, and the next phase, we're ready for the next phase of their of their journey, because I'm still hanging on to them. I'm not ready to let them go.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to think what that next iteration is.
Aha.
But in terms of where they're at, I'm excited for them. But
Okay.
yeah, it's so it wasn't a sad process. But in terms of the book itself, I
Mm-hmm.
think this might be my favorite one in my trilogy,
Ooh.
in the sense that they were all a little bit older, slightly different things that I did. There were two kind of distinct scenes. So there were the kids at Dayton College, the school that they've been to, and then there was William in Madagascar.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's kind of these two polarized scenes, and then kind of how the characters evolve in each of those. And, you know, at Dayton College, the girls' relationship as friends, you know, they've been friends since like grade, what is it? It's grade 8. And now, you know, they're going to go to varsity, and what are they going to do? And they're going to do different things, and they want different things. And how does that play into the friendship and affect the friendship, and how they see each other? So I kind of toyed with that a little bit, and that discomfort in a friendship that is so bonded, but also now it's tricky, you know. Oh, but you want something else, and I don't agree with how you think about things anymore. You know, that we grow up, we change.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of like planting just some naughty little relationship seeds there. And then William in Madagascar, how, you know, he sees his family and who they are and what they're about, and how he wants to take his father down, you know, in terms of his business, and how he evolves from a very self-absorbed brat into someone who has a real purpose. And
Wow.
so there's that's happening. Mzi plays a much lesser role in the book in this one, but that's I kind of think irrelevant. It's fine, you know. He's studying hard at GCT, he's busy, and so that's okay. So yeah, and then I brought in like things like cryptocurrency, you know, and I was a bit worried. I talked to my husband about it, and he was like, you know, well, kids of like 10 or 11 understand that. So at the back of the book, I just included like a one pager on like what is cryptocurrency. Wait, there it is. Hold on. Yeah.
Okay,
Just
great.
so that you know, parents can read that, because I don't think all parents know what cryptocurrency is. But kids are quite accepting of it, you know. Kids play a lot of stuff on screens, you know. Children deal with things in video games like Fortnite with V-Bucks, virtual money, you know. And so virtual money isn't actually a strange concept to them. And so bring that into kind of the greater scheme and the plot. So yeah, so I loved kind of doing this book. It was lots of fun, and I think I'd grown into my characters as well. So that was quite cool. I really knew who they are. Yeah, and they're becoming more of themselves as well.
I can hear that, Melina. It sounds like you're speaking about people you know. I mean, like real live people.
I do know them. You know,
I know them too. Of course, each person reading the book knows them in their own way. And that's what I love about books, because, you know, you read it, you see them differently. You see them. That's why books to me are better than movies, because of your imagination that you bring to the book. So, I mean, you know them as you know them, but I'll know them differently to you. Exactly. And they're the same characters.
And that's why often like a movie from a book can sometimes be so disappointing. I remember watching the first, what's it called? I can't think of the book now. Damn. Anyway, and the girl's eyes in the book were brown. And then on screen, she was like very blue-eyed. And I was like,
no, that's wrong. That's so wrong.
Like it was a
how could they get that wrong?
And I was just like, I don't even understand. I was like, okay, I'm leaving. I like walked out this in a bit. You know, I can't deal with how wrong this is. So it is very much, that is the magic of books, being able to transport yourself into your mind's reality. And so that's why also sometimes people say, well, how can you write a book that, you know, goes from like a 10-year-old to like a 14-year-old? And it's like, well, there are our view on the world is based on our perception and what we are able to understand. So unlike a screen or a movie where you are shown everything, there is no imagination allowed. The music is given to you, so the sounds, and then the visual is given to you, and the words that are spoken. So you aren't allowed to create anything according to your own mind's ability to process stuff. Whereas in a book, a 10-year-old will see something in a way that they can make sense of it as compared to like a 12 or 13-year-old. And so that is the magic of books and being able to read. You go at your own pace and you create the reality according to what you can understand. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, I actually think these books are 10 to 40. Let's just go 47 since that's my age. Because I love your children's books as much as I loved your first adult book that you wrote. I mean,
thank you.
We can all read them.
Yeah, I'm so glad because I have had a couple of moms who read them and they were like, oh, I loved it. It was great. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Because I think we've all got that 13-year-old inside, right?
Yeah.
And I think that you can slip into that without, so that's the thing about a book. You can slip into that emotional place that lives within you because you've been through that, and you can be there with them. And that is so cool. Yeah.
True.
So, yay. Thank you.
And also, let me just say that I don't get time to read fictional books these days. I mean, I haven't read, other than your books, I haven't read anything of fiction in years. Like, I read all nonfiction stuff. I read motivational stuff. I'm always like feeding my mind or whatever. And it was nice to just have that escapism, just reading a book, it was just lovely. So you kind of forced me into that. And I realized I should be doing more of it.
Yeah, definitely. Like, plan, I think start now, Lauren, make your holiday reading list, and give yourself like
what's
the December
holiday? What's a holiday? What's that?
Is
a mom ever on holiday? Yeah, there's a holiday coming up, and I must say it is true. When my son is on holiday, I do a lot of holiday things with him, but I don't have, in the time that I'm not doing holiday stuff with him, I am needing to get my work done. And I somehow have to keep him, otherwise occupied while I get my work done. So my real holiday, I don't know, I think it's going to be a good few years. And then we're going to miss them, of course. Then we're going to miss our kids so much. But when they start to become teenagers and they're just doing their own thing, we'll have so much time. Holiday time, and then we'll miss like all the time we had with them. So I just try and enjoy all my time I have with him, and then the rest of the time I just like work.
I know, but you've got to come on, you must buy yourself a Christmas reading list.
Okay, send me a reading list. I'll read.
Well, there's so much
starting with this book.
Swear to start. Okay, cool. I'll definitely send you that. Yeah,
I think probably the last fiction I read before this book was either Jodi Picoult or one of hers, or Paulo Coelho, my other two favorite authors, other than you, of course, and all the authors that I've interviewed.
I love that. That's great. Okay, cool. No, there's and the nice thing is that within the South African context, there's a lot of great fiction that is out there that isn't political, because without offending political or I don't know what you call it, writing, but
just normal writing.
Very tedious and it's very depressing. So, but there are lots of South African authors out there who are writing great stories set locally and interesting characters that we can relate to. So yeah, there's definitely that, and then obviously all the international stuff is great too. So there's so much. There really is.
Do you know what's really great right now is my son's just learned to read. So we can get that list of those South African books and he can read them to me, and then I'll be killing two birds with one stone.
I love it. That's classic.
Yeah, it's so
That
much
might
fun.
we'll just have to censor which ones those are. But
Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
not
yeah.
yours. No, he's not ready
No,
to read yours
definitely
yet.
not
He's
mine.
only just turned 7.
Oh, sweet. That's so cute. Such a nice age when they learn to read. Jack runs down the road.
Awesome. Oh no, he's not reading that. He's reading real stuff. No, I know. That would bore him to tears. So he reads much more interesting things. No, he's great. He
Right.
can really read.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
That's
not the
great.
boring
So,
stuff.
okay.
I think that boring stuff is what makes kids not want to read. If you get
I
those
wouldn't be
silly
surprised.
little books, yeah, that don't really have a storyline. It's just like, you know, like one little short little sentence and another little short little sentence. I think that actually puts kids off reading. I think they should, as soon as possible, read something that means something to them. So when we started getting him to read, he was reading like a book on Minecraft, you know, because that interested him, you know, or he was reading a book on Lego because that interested him. And yeah, so we just skipped over all those silly little things and moved on to actually reading. And he's just reading. He loves reading big words though. He is one of those kids who just wants to, you know, he'll read like unfortunately, and you know, he'll take a stab at all the big words. And the minute you tell him what it really is, he's got it. And then he'll remember for the next time. So that's great.
Yeah, that is great. And I think, you know, that's just something, you know, for moms out there to remember, that just trying to find something that works for your particular child. And I know my son, he's an avid reader, but he loved to read, comics. So, you know, your classics like Tintin or Asterix and Obelix. And even kind of like now there's also lots of graphic novels, and or if your kid likes superheroes, you know, just go for the traditional Marvel and DC comics. And those are a great way to get a kid, especially a boy, reading, you know, where it's very age appropriate and it's fun and there's kapow and all of that kind of stuff, you know. And my daughter's not a keen reader at all, so her is a struggle, but I'm thinking, you know, girly magazines and stuff will probably be our next port of call. But you know, it's just about keeping trying on and aiming to just get them interested, you know.
And not
so
everyone's going to love reading. I mean, in a world that has gone video and audio, maybe she's an auditory learner, or maybe, you know, video is more her thing. It's quite tricky. You could try audiobooks and stuff, but the thing is then she's not reading.
Yeah,
I know you're trying to get her reading.
But you still want that process of imagining yourself. And so an audiobook does that. So we love audiobooks. Well, car trips with audiobooks are a win. I've also, I don't know if I told you, I did, after you died, I've created the audiobook. And so that is available.
Wow.
I know.
And do you read it? Do you read your audiobook?
No, I don't. But I got a lovely woman called Debbie Hawkins to do it. Yeah, I don't have a studio, and she, in lockdown, actually has a studio at home. Her husband is a sound engineer, and so he produced it and she read it. And so it's fantastic. Yeah, I'm very happy with it. Yeah, so that is available, and I've got the first chapter is free, but I'll give you the details of that. So if people want to kind of go, I don't know if I want to listen to this as an audiobook, I've got it available for free on my PayHip account. And so yeah, I'll send you all the details.
Please do. Let's add that.
Cool. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. I think we should give links to all of your books in this one. Cool. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Let me just see if there were any other questions I wanted to include in this interview. I know that editing is your least favorite part, right? Of putting a book together. You like everything else, but the editing you don't enjoy. Because you mentioned it a few times. So I can understand, because you kind of almost have to take the book apart. Like, nobody likes their stuff edited. And yet, you know, some of us, like me, strange people, love to edit and proofread. but it's never fun to be edited, because you kind of feel like you've lost your voice. You know, you can lose your voice sometimes. I've had some work edited where I thought, oh no, but it just doesn't sound like me anymore. You know, they've taken so much out. that it's not even me.
I know, and you've got to. So, in this last book this adult one that I've just done, it at one point I wanted to throw in the towel. I was done with it. I'd gotten it back from my editor again, and she'd made a whole lot more changes. And I said to my husband, I was like, I'm done with this stupid book. I don't even think I wrote it anymore. And he was like, you just feel like that today. Go to bed, go sleep. And tomorrow try again, and have a look at it. And I did. I just put it away, I think maybe for 2 days, had lots of tea in between, and then went back and I went, oh yeah, it's not so bad. She's right. That sentence could be better. And so sometimes you just need to step away from it. You're so close to it. It's like you've got this fifth arm coming out of, oh no, wait, we've only got 2 arms. Okay, third arm coming out of you, that, or fifth limb rather. And you kind of like, it's so close. You can't see the wood from the trees. And you do need to sometimes just give yourself a bit of space, not too much space that you never go back, but you also can't get too precious. So, I mean, I've had precious beaten out of me by being in marketing. So working with clients where you think something's so fantastic and you send it to them and they're like, I hate it. It's terrible. Why did you send it? You haven't thought about this. You haven't thought about this. You haven't thought about that. And so I've done that. I've done that for so long. It's been beaten right out of me,
so you like can handle it.
Attachment to your work. And so, it still stings.
Because it's really just the ego, isn't it? I mean, the ego gets in the way,
Totally.
It's difficult because you are attached. I can hear how important your characters are to you. So you're attached to them and you're attached to, the whole written piece. Yeah. And you pour so much into it, hours and hours, and just, your heart and soul.
Exactly. And so it's very tricky. It's very tricky, but if you want to put a decent piece of, to put a good product out there, you actually have to be willing to accept the criticism and rework it and rework it and rework it and mold it and fix it. And it's okay. It is still yours. It's so yours. No one could have ever done it, the way that you can. And that editing process, as hard as it is, there are parts of it that get better, so sometimes so I try and self-edit a bit. And then I always think, I've self-edited this so brilliantly. I am amazing. And then I send it to the editor and it comes back red, where there's like, you can't even see which words were real before that it's been so changed. And you're like, oh my God, someone's supposed to track changes. I can't, it just looks terrible. And I, and you're like, okay, maybe it didn't self-edit so good then. So it's a learning process, and hopefully I will get better at writing. So that thing of Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours. The dude is so right. You got to go back and go back and go back. Like, for example, my son turns around and he says, I want to be a tennis champ. I'm going to play at Wimbledon one day. But then when I say, okay, well, don't you want to go practice some tennis today? I'll take you down to the court. Nah. And I'm like, ha ha ha. So never going to Wimbledon. I say that inside my head. I'm not a totally horrible mother. But because I'm as a parent looking at it going, practice makes perfect, buddy. So best you get on the court. And then we don't like it when we hear it back at ourselves. If you want to write, best you write and write and rewrite and rewrite and write and write again, not just the drivel in your journal. No, it's stuff that you can give to someone that they can crit, and then you can learn. Oh, I know for this past book, I've got a whole lot of beta readers, and thank goodness, my beta readers are better in English than me, because they were like, you can't put a thing like, like leave at the end of a sentence. I'm like,
yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, my dad was huge on that. He always said, never end a sentence with but, or never end a sentence. Yeah, like that's it.
Or
And whatever.
that hanging word.
Yeah,
I don't know what
yeah.
that word is called, or a conjunction,
Yeah.
or whatever it is.
Yes.
Yeah, and don't leave that at the end. They past participles.
And it's so
hanging
difficult though sometimes to structure your sentence where it doesn't have it at the end. Sometimes,
to
you
rewrite
know.
the whole sentence. But but when you look at it and you stand back and you read and you go, okay, well, it is a shitty sentence. Rework it. Come on, make it better. And you've got to do it.
And most of the world doesn't do that though. I mean, if you look at most writing out there, it is not technically correct. You know, on the internet. Content I'm talking about.
Yes,
the most consumable content nowadays is not really written grammatically correctly at all. I mean, especially because, you know, we've got American English, English, South African English. It's all such a, you know, it's confusing. The spellings are different. You know, people speak differently. But generally, most of the stuff I read nowadays, people write as they speak. And we speak badly.
We do. Yeah. We speak very badly. And we swallow words, and so it's very tricky, and but hopefully that's why there are those people who've gone to varsity and studied English, and they know what they're doing. Those are
Did you do that in the end?
Your project? No, no. I've warned my children. I said to them, when you children go to university, I'm going to go do a degree in English and history of art, and I'm going to do all the things that I should have done at varsity instead of science.
So you carried on with your BSc. Did you carry on?
Yes, I finished it. Oh yeah, I did honors. I mean, in physiology. Oh, wow. Yeah, and it worked out. It worked out. It was part of the process. I would never have gotten into healthcare advertising if I hadn't had it. So you know, which was where I kind of learned all my marketing. So yeah, it was good. But I've warned my children, I'm going back to university. I will be studying English. See you on campus. And they're like horrified. At 10 and 12, they know that that's not cool. And, you know, they are mortified. I'm like, come on, it'll be such fun. We'll hang out at lunchtime. And they're like, no way. No way. Why did we get the crazy mother? So... But I'd love to go back to varsity. I'm sure it would be such a different experience, though. Maybe it would taint my memories of, you know, when I was 20. So, but yes, if I could, I would. And then also, there's a part of me that wonders, would it put me off because I would realize how little I know? So there is a part of me that is fearful that it would be, don't you know that that's how a sentence goes? Or haven't you read that book? I was reading in December a book by a woman who died, African-American lady, but hugely influential. And I had
Maya
never read
Angelou? Oh, no, she's still here.
No, I'll tell you. And I had never read one of her books, and I found it so eye-opening. I really felt like I had real insight into African Americans, the struggle, how they are treated, and I was just like, oh, my goodness. And you know, I was chatting to a woman on the beach about this, and she said, haven't you read those? And I was like, no. And she said, well, I read them at varsity. I did English as a major. Haven't you read them? You write books. And I was just like, no. So you know, so maybe I won't go back to varsity because people will laugh at me and be like, oh, you're like 50 and haven't read this. You know, I'm like, I just read that one woman. You know, it was good, I think. So yeah, there is always that fear of looking like a twit. So yeah, anyway, I'm sure everyone feels that. But the important thing is, if you really want to write a book, you better write it. Otherwise, it ain't happening.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I asked you. Because you didn't want to write a book your whole life. That wasn't your big thing. That wasn't your drive. You said you only decided you were going to write a book when you were 35, and then you wrote your first one when you were 38. Is that right? Did I get the numbers right? Yeah. And I wanted to write a book from when I was 7 and started writing a book, whenever it was. I was like really young. I started writing a book, and I thought I would write, and I always thought I would write. I come from a family of writers. We have published authors in our family, including my dad. and aunts and great aunts and my gran and just so many people. And yeah, so I should be a writer, you know, and I still haven't written that book.
Yeah, and that's okay. Like, is my theory, you know, it's okay if you haven't, unless it is a real burning kind of issue that you really want to do, but it'll come. The time, your son is quite young, you know, my kids, my second, so she was about, what's 4 years now, so she was about six or so when I started writing. But it's because I had a burning story that I had to get out, that I think really came from, I'd lost a friend, and you know, you kind of bury that stuff, and then I think the story came from that. The book is completely nothing about my friend who passed away. You know, he was a guy, and in the book it's a girl. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I think writing the book was a form of therapy in its own way, because I have used writing as my own kind of psychotherapy my entire life.
So you were processing.
Yeah, it was a huge process that went into that, plus all the ability to be creative and just to allow the words to flow and to create characters, and there's no one sitting behind you with the big stick going, that character can't have, you know, blue eyes. It doesn't matter. Like, nobody cares. You know, you can do whatever you like. It doesn't matter in a book. And some people like it and some people don't, and that's also fine, you know. So yeah, it's a tricky one, writing.
I think what I put in my way is I want to write a bestseller out the gate. So I don't just want to write a book. I have this idea that if I'm going to write a book, it's going to be a book that changes the world. You know, otherwise, why write a book? You know, it has to be a book that starts a movement, changes the world, that shows people themselves. You know, because I have it all in my head. Like I have this message I want to give to the world, but I have no idea how to put it down and, you know, really turn it into a book. Yeah.
Well, I think then you just sit on that.
Yeah.
I kind of think of like,
you know,
you totally, well, and that's exactly what happened with the first book, was that I had the idea, and I've told the story 1,000 times, I'm sure people are so bored, but I had the idea while I was jogging. And then from there, it sat and it sat and it sat, and the story grew, and the characters kind of popped into my head, and then I couldn't hold it in my head anymore. I wanted to make it come alive. I wanted to see it, you know, for real. And then I started, and I think that might be your process too, where you're basically kind of adding to your pile of knowledge and information, you know. So, you know, maybe it'll be a kind of a self-help book, or a you know, something that is possibly going to be life-changing. So whenever or whatever that is, it's going to be super exciting. So don't put I almost want to say, don't put a timeline to your book. It'll come, you know, it will. Just keep filling the basket with your experiences, and with your knowledge. But I mean, maybe you want to take it one step further and push yourself, and, you know, get a notebook that is just for ideas about my book.
Yeah. Okay, I'll do that.
And you just jot them down, and it doesn't have to be in order. Don't pressurize yourself. Don't give yourself a content page. Don't do any horribly structured things, but just put it down. Have you read what's his name's book? Geez, I'm fantastic with names.
On Writing by, you're talking about On Writing by Stephen King?
No. It's The War of Art.
Oh, no, I haven't read that.
So not the what's it? Not the Chinese general.
Yes.
That's The Art of War.
Yeah. The War of Art
by Stephen Pressfield. There we go.
Ah.
Names do eventually come to me, and it's a fantastic book. Where he talks about how he would go and work, make money, and then hate it, leave it, and then decide to write. Write, become poor, like living out of his car kind of thing, and then script and go back to work and work. I mean, he has been on a journey, but it's beautiful in the sense that he talks about the muse, he talks about what is holding you back, all of that. It's fantastic. And it's a thin little book, and a lot of people read it like on an annual basis just to remind themselves about it.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a thing that it's something that'll help push that ego aside so that you can step through and create.
Okay.
And
sounds amazing. Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah. Because you also kind of have that idea that you want to, haul yourself up in a retreat and then you'll write, I mean, like, wouldn't that be amazing? But actually, you've got to fit it in snatches of time around your busy life, which is what you're doing, and successfully.
5 a.m. in bed, and then I get so cross with my children if they wake up early, come through. Hi, Mom. I'm like, why aren't you still sleeping?
You're still busy. Bed. Yeah.
Not time yet. Go back to bed. Which parent says that? So
I think many, actually.
So I was like, I'm busy. Go back to bed. So you do have to squeeze it in and around your life, and sure, absolutely, if they have that privilege of being able to write 9 to 5, but even those people who live off their writing don't write like a full day, those kind of tortured artist vibes are not true. Like most people, they will work, like write for 4 hours a day or whatever, and then they kind of need to do the business of books, the marketing, and all of that kind of stuff. They have to.
Exactly.
So it's not all kind of in a cabin, somewhere. That would be great, but yeah.
Would you ever do it? Would you love to do that?
Totally.
I'm
waiting for someone to be my what do you call it? My patron. So even though I have a Patreon account, which I would love that. The idea of a patron, of someone saying, "Oh, Mel, I've got a cabin in France. You should go right there for 6 months," and I would be like, "Yeah, I'm on a plane tomorrow. Don't hold back," and all expenses paid. So who doesn't have that delusion?
Delusion. Well, there was a movie about a writer's retreat that was really interesting. I remember it was a British movie. I can't remember the name of it, but it was really lovely, where they all go on this writer's retreat and they all nutty as fruitcakes. It was great.
Yeah. All right, I'll just look that one up. I'll Google it.
I can't remember what it was called. Maybe it's just called the Writer's Retreat or something, something random like that. You can say. But one last question. So when you write, do you always type, or do you sometimes write, as in with a pen and paper?
Okay, good question. I always type kind of, straight onto my laptop. But sometimes when I am kind of brainstorming something, or an early start to an idea, or I'm researching, then I'll kind of maybe sit on my laptop and research stuff and then write in a notebook and see how things link. Or if I want to kind of, because I don't plan my books so much. There's a little bit of planning, but not a hell of a lot. Characters pop up out of the random all the time. And so I will kind of sit with paper and try and think about how the story connects or flows, or, but I don't necessarily stick to that original picture. I handwrite journals, and I handwrite, sometimes if I did a process of working on characters. So in the second adult book, I've gotten feedback from beta readers around how they felt the characters weren't round enough, if you want to put it that way. And so I needed to work on them. And I listened to a stunning podcast, and they interviewed an author whose name obviously I can't remember. And she was talking about how she writes these amazing books that take like 2 or 3 years to write, but she would put up these like posters up in her room, and then put the character in the center, and then like cut out things from magazines and really draw into who that character is, so that she knows them like a person as you say. You know, it's taken me 3 books to do that. And she does this kind of whole process, and I loved that. And so I didn't do that process, but what I did was I wrote into each character and what was driving them, and what was kind of what's their kind of their main goal, like what are they like lusting after, what are they wanting in life, and then and how is that being stuffed up. And so it really helped with this particular book, because the characters are difficult and unpleasant people, to be honest. I don't like any of them. And so I had to then kind of pull them apart a little bit and dig a little bit deeper into them and learn about them. And that process I did on paper, because it felt like it needed that. And then I could write, once I'd done that and I knew them better, then I could write that back into the book. But that was just typing. But for the most part, I go straight onto the laptop and try and let it flow out of my fingers. I'm a three finger typer, pretty bad. But you know, it's all right. It works. It works good enough. I keep on telling my children, you need to learn to type. That's God. So yeah, it's so that's kind of what I do.
That sounds so similar to a process in marketing of creating your avatar. So who you're going to market to. So that whole process of unbundling who somebody is and what their drivers are and their needs. And that's amazing, because that is something that's taught all the time as a marketing tool. Fascinating.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Your target market. You got to
your avatar. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, as always, it's been absolutely amazing to chat to you, and thank you for your time. I know that you're just as busy as I am. So, it's always a pleasure to chat to you, and I always get so much out of talking to you. So thank you, and I'm sure our readers and listeners and viewers will get just as much out of the interview as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It's been amazing.
Yeah. And good luck with your book, and also with the publishing deal. I hope it comes through. That'll be fun. Yeah. Great. Okay. Have a good day.
Alrighty.